Minute Officer, please begin the live streaming. It has. Good evening, everyone. I declare the council meeting on the 24th of June 2025, and I should actually hit the gavel, open. And would like to advise that the meeting is being live streamed in accordance with the council meeting, live streaming, recording and electronic attendance policy. By being present at this meeting, members of the public consent to the live streaming, the city live streaming and recording and subsequently publishing their voices on the city's website. I would like to advise that should members attending online experience technical difficulties, I will call for a 2-minute adjournment. After this time, the meeting will recommence. Acknowledgement of country. I first wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we are on, the Mandurah people, who have met for thousands of years on the shores of these beautiful waterways as we do today. This is Mandurah, meeting place of the heart. Apologies. We have no apologies. An important notice, members of the public are advised that any decisions made at the meeting tonight can be revoked in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995. Therefore, members of the public should not rely on any decisions until formal notification in writing by council has been received. 5, answers to questions taken on notice. We have some questions from the last meeting that were taken on notice included in the minutes, and I will take those as being read. 6, amendment to standing orders. Councillor is requested to resolve to suspend the operation of the following provision of the City of Mandurah Standing Orders Local Law 2016 for the duration of this meeting to ensure that Councillor Kearns can follow and participate in the meeting as it progresses. Standing Order 7.2, members to occupy seats while present in the meeting room, relevant only for elected members attending the council meeting. Agree under Standing Orders 8.1 and 12.2 that instead of requiring a show of hands, a vote will be conducted by exception, with the presiding member calling for those members against the motion. If no response is received, the motion will be declared carried and minuted accordingly. Reiterate that the requirement as per Standing Order 7.3 for members to advise the presiding member when leaving or entering the meeting at any time. Can I please call for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Wilkins and Councillor Rogers. Is there anyone opposed to that? No, that is carried. Public question time. We now move into public question time. Please ensure that your questions relate to the ordinary business of the city, the function of council or the purpose of this meeting. Please note that this is an opportunity to ask questions only. No additional statements or arguments will be permitted. During public question time, members of the public are given the opportunity to ask a question of council. Council will allocate 15 minutes for public question time. Once this time has been exhausted, I may move a motion to extend public question time for a further 15 minutes. The City is committed to ensuring fair and equitable access to public question time, and in accordance with council policy, each member of the public who wishes to ask a question may ask up to 3 questions. Public question time must be conducted in accordance with the City of Mandurah's standing orders. Questions must not reflect adversely on the integrity of the City of Mandurah, including an elected member, city officer or any other party. Members of the public who have submitted questions in advance of this meeting will be invited to ask their questions first, and following this, if time allows, I will invite others to ask questions. So when called forward to ask your question, please begin by stating your name. And the City will make every attempt to provide an answer. When this is not possible, your question will be taken on notice and a written response will be provided to you once the necessary research has been undertaken. This response will be included in the next council agenda. So I now open public question time at 5:34, and I would like to, so unless we have Robin Ackroyd in the room, she's not here tonight. She has put forward 3 questions, and I will read those on her behalf. The first question is, given that the City has now clarified that improvements to the Western Foreshore tree canopy, green space, pedestrian access and amenity are not contingent on the inclusion of a commercial element that includes a microbrewery and excising Crown Reserve land for car parking, then why has the City selected a commercial enterprise that contravenes the principles and objectives of the City's public health and wellbeing plan, family and children's policy, youth strategy, environmental strategy, environment strategy and community purpose land policy, and gives rise to the need for traffic management and harm minimisation plans to protect the rights of families, young people and residents to use the A-class reserve for its intended purpose to be a safe, quiet, accessible and inclusive space in nature. I'll go to you, CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed Western Foreshore commercial site is aligned with the principles and objectives of the stated plans and policies. The commercial element was introduced in response to strong community feedback, identifying the existing commercial site as a high priority area for activation. The City then undertook a competitive expression of interest process to find a suitable operator who could deliver complementary uses that supported a vibrant, family-orientated precinct. The inclusion of a licensed restaurant and microbrewery alongside mini golf and a chocolate outlet will support local jobs, deliver $6.2 million in lease revenue for reinvestment into community infrastructure in the first 25 years, and help create a welcoming year-round destination. Strict conditions, including reduced trading hours, a harm minimisation plan, and safety measures like lighting and CCTV will ensure the area remains safe and inclusive. The venue will be over 100 metres from the playground and occupies less than 10% of the total reserve. The project has been carefully planned to align with the City's public health, youth, environment and community policies, while balancing recreation and activation for long-term community benefit.
Thank you, CEO. The next question. If the City is sincere in its commitment to its objectives and strategies for the community it governs and wants to maintain a reputation as a unique place to live and invest in, then why doesn't the City source a commercial enterprise more befitting of the vision of the Western Foreshore, being a safe community precinct that preserves the A-class reserve in its entirety for the purposes of public open space and recreation, respects the Aboriginal heritage and the war memorial aspects of the site, and provides an alcohol-free and fully inclusive opportunity for recreation and leisure for the whole community? Through to you, CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. The City is deeply committed to protecting and enhancing the Western Foreshore as a safe, inclusive and family-friendly community space that honours its heritage and public purpose. The revitalisation plan retains the vast majority of the A-class reserve, more than 90% for public open space, including the grassed area, play areas and improved access to the foreshore and water. The commercial element, occupying less than 10% of the site, was introduced in response to strong community feedback in 2018 and through a competitive expression of interest process. The selected proposal offers complementary family-orientated uses such as mini golf course and the cafe, alongside a licensed restaurant and microbrewery designed to operate within strict limits to ensure community safety and amenity. Importantly, the site's heritage and war memorial are being respected and preserved through ongoing engagement, careful planning and design. The precinct will include improved lighting, shared paths, additional tree canopy and new infrastructure to support community events like Anzac Day. The City's aim is to create a balanced space that welcomes all ages and backgrounds while supporting local jobs and reinvesting lease revenue into the precinct's ongoing maintenance and improvement, delivering long-term benefits for the Mandurah community.
Thank you, CEO. And the third question, with regard to the City's objective under its environment strategy to champion sustainable and active transport opportunities to deliver an accessible pedestrian-linked ecocentric city that brings nature's place to our urban environment, has the City investigated ways to promote the existing bridge infrastructure and adopt a low-cost hop-on, hop-off transport system, e.g. by utilising the existing tourist foreshore train as a means to link people to the existing microbrewery on the eastern foreshore instead of excising Crown Reserve land for car parking that will require a traffic management plan? Through to you, CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. Improvements to transport access for the Western Foreshore Leisure Precinct have been considered as part of the City Centre Master Plan, the Parking Plan and the broader integrated transport strategy. The City strongly supports sustainable and active transport and is prioritising pedestrian connectivity, public transport access and cycling infrastructure to reduce car dependency in the precinct. The Western Foreshore is already accessible via bus routes 591 and 592 with stops on Mary Street and Old Coast Road. However, we acknowledge the need for better direct links from the Mandurah train station and across the broader strategic centre. As part of ongoing planning, the City is exploring opportunities to improve connectivity, including advocating for more direct and frequent public transport routes, and investigating flexible transport solutions to better link key destinations like the eastern and the western foreshores. Parking infrastructure currently proposed is designed to balance accessibility with protection of open space and tree canopy, and will support major community events while accommodating the increased visitation anticipated from the precinct's redevelopment.
Thank you. They are the questions that Robin Ackroyd had submitted earlier. Do we have any members of the public who would now like to ask a public question? No, if not, I will now close public question time at 5:41. We'll now move to public statement, and we have no public statements. Number 9, leave of absence. Are there any councillors wishing to submit a leave of absence request? No, there are none. Petitions, we have no petitions, we have no presentations, and there are no deputations. So we will now move to item 13, which is confirmation of the minutes. I now call for a mover and a seconder to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 27th of May. I call for a mover and a seconder, Councillor Schumacher and Councillor Smith. Is there anyone wishing to oppose that? No, that is carried. Okay, we'll now move to announcements by presiding members. Councillor Wright attended the Men's Health Week Fun Run. Could you please give us a little update on that? Councillor Wright.
Through the Mayor, definitely better weather than last year when it was blowing a gale, and it was really pleasing to see 40 or 50 odd people get down there. Just want to say a big thanks. Kelly, I think, was the main organiser, but she had 4 other helpers there, Candice, Elisa, Sharon and Claire. The day ran like clockwork, and obviously a really important message being spruiked on Men's Health Week, and it was great that we could all get down there for a run. But promoting awareness and preventative health, so the importance of men making sure that they prioritise their health. One thing they did speak about down there was knowing your numbers as a man, and I think I'm getting to an age where I'm doing the same. So I have the cholesterol number in mind, and I have a grip strength and all that stuff, and it just went really well. The worst part of the day was definitely the run. Thankfully, I did better than last year and actually trained so I could walk the week after. I finished, had Councillor Wilkins smiling happily at me, and I looked at him and went, geez, you've had it easy. He was down there supporting his wife who got involved, which again, gentlemen, happy wife, happy life. So it was a really great day. So well done to the city for putting that event on. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Now move to Councillor Zolani, who attended the Falcon Lions changeover event. Councillor Zolani.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say a few quick words about the Falcon Lions Club changeover dinner, which I had the pleasure of attending on June 17th, I think last week. It was a cold and rainy night. I arrived pretty drenched, to be honest. But the warmth inside the room made up for it. The Lions put on a lovely event full of genuine community spirit and friendship. It was great to see some familiar faces there, including Lisa Mande MLA, Mayor Caroline Knight, Councillor Amber Kearns, and Councillor Shannon Wright. It really showed how much we all value and support the work the Lions do. The evening celebrated Lion Ian Derrick, who finished his term as president, and welcomed Lion Margaret Landwehr as the incoming president. You could really feel the pride and passion in the room, not just from the leadership, but from all the volunteers who give so much of their time. It was a great reminder of how lucky we are to have groups like the Falcon Lions Club, who are always quietly working behind the scenes to help our community. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor Zolani, and it was a really lovely night, and we are so privileged in Mandurah to have so many volunteers, and I think that really was a very good example of that. Now move to Councillor Smith, who attended the World Elders Abuse Awareness Day.
Thank you, through the Chair. On Wednesday, the 18th of June, I had the privilege of joining Councillor Kearns at Peel Thunder for the Peel Senior Relationship Services World Elder Abuse Awareness Day event, Wise Up and Rise Up. This important session, accompanied by morning tea, offered a valuable opportunity to raise awareness and deepen our collective understanding of elderly abuse. Elder abuse is any act that causes harm or distress to an older person and is perpetrated by someone that they know and trust. It was a profoundly impactful morning spent engaging with passionate advocates, community support services and local leaders who are committed to protecting the rights and dignity of older residents in the Peel region. In my capacity as a paramedic, I have unfortunately witnessed this form of abuse far too often. Along with paediatric cases, these are amongst the most difficult situations to attend, largely because both groups represent the most vulnerable in our community. So I believe everyone, regardless of age, deserves to live free from abuse, whether it be physical, emotional, financial or psychological. The sobering truth is that 1 in 6 older Australians experience elder abuse at some point. It's really an unacceptable reality, and I really hope we can work together to change. A heartfelt thank you to Michelle for courageously sharing her survivor story and all of those involved in making the event both powerful and meaningful. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Now move to Councillor Wilkins, who attended the Mandurah Surf and Lifesaving Club Award ceremony.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the privilege of attending the Mandurah Surf Lifesaving Club's annual awards last Friday night. A fantastic celebration of the people who give so much back to our community. It was great to be there alongside Reece Williams, the member for Mandurah, the federal member Andrew Hastie, and my fellow councillor Shannon Wright, who perhaps should be talking about this event given he is a proud former vice president of the club. Surf lifesaving clubs like Mandurah's are the heartbeat of our coastal communities, not only keeping us safe in the water, but also building vital skills, resilience and connection, especially amongst our young people. And it was awesome to see so many young club members being recognised for their hard work and dedication on the night. Special mention to the Mosley family, who collectively took home an impressive number of awards. I gave up counting after a while. The three of them just absolutely cleaned up. This has been a particularly difficult year for the club with the passing of 2 members, including club captain Luke Hayward. His presence was deeply felt on the night, and it was clear his legacy continues to inspire and unite the Mandurah Surf Lifesaving family. Congratulations to all award recipients, and a special thank you to every member and volunteer who keeps this incredible club going. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Next, we'll move to Councillor Cumberworth, who attended the Mandurah Filipino Australian Multicultural Community Incorporated 127th Philippine Independence Day celebration. That is a mouthful.
It is indeed a mouthful. I won't repeat it for everyone here. But I was absolutely honoured to represent the Mayor and the City of Mandurah at the event. The food was absolutely fantastic, and the Filipino community has a long history in Mandurah, and they make great efforts to not only unite their own community, but actually spread that energy throughout the community, running weekend markets and all sorts of community-focused programs that draw people in and support people in so many different ways. It was a fantastic event, and just the energy, the happiness, it was definitely a fantastic celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberworth, and thank you for representing me on that evening. So, thank you very much. I attended along with a number of councillors, attended the City of Mandurah's celebration for 40 years of its junior council program. We had a civic event at MPAC. This annual initiative, the Junior Council, empowers Year 6 students from the city's 21 primary schools that comprises of 38 councillors, including a junior mayor and a deputy junior mayor. Each year, the students step into civic roles, electing a junior mayor and deputy mayor and working on real community projects. The reunion brought together junior mayors and deputies for a morning of reflection, reconnection and celebration. And hosted by MPAC, the event featured guest speakers, musical performances and inspiring stories of how Junior Council has really gone on to shape the careers and confidences of past members of that group. And the celebration really highlighted the city's deep connection and ongoing commitment to empowering young people, developing leadership civic engagement and a strong community for now and the future. And it made me incredibly proud to be part of a local government that really lifts our local people up. So it was one of those real big moments full of pride being there on Sunday, and I'm sure the other councillors were there, felt the same. We'll now move to the local legend for June 2025, and this month's local legend is actually a group, the Coastal Waste Warriors, and I will share a little bit about them. They are environmental champions. What began as a small community initiative has grown into a vibrant network of volunteers who gather monthly to clean up our beaches, estuaries and parks. The group was founded in Mandurah in 2018 by the Field family as a heartfelt tribute to their daughter, Amber Dawn, who sadly passed away in 2017. Amber Dawn's deep love for nature and the ocean inspired the family's desire to channel their grief into meaningful community action. The Coastal Waste Warriors held their first beach clean-up in January 2019 at Pyramids Beach. And since then, the Coastal Waste Warriors have grown into a dedicated community initiative with a simple yet powerful goal: to protect Mandurah's waterways and marine ecosystem from the growing threats of litter and pollution. The group has so far removed more than 4 tonnes of waste and more than 1 million individual pieces of debris from the environment. These efforts not only beautify the region but also safeguard wildlife and contribute to valuable data to national conservation databases. The Coastal Waste Warriors are true environmental leaders and passionate advocates for sustainable education in the community. They spread their powerful message and action through school visits, community talks, social media outreach, empowering others to make the environmentally responsible choices in their daily lives. The Coastal Waste Warriors have created a platform for collective action, proving that we all have a part to play in caring for our precious local environment. They are a testament to the fact that real change begins at the community level, with compassion, commitment and a willingness to get your hands dirty for a cleaner, greener future. Massive congratulations to the group and its founders. We are so thankful for all the work that you do in the community in keeping Mandurah beautiful for future generations. So on behalf of the Council, I will be presenting this award to the group at their next beach clean-up in June. And I encourage everyone to come down and help them out. Let's give them a round of applause. So next we'll move to item 15, which is declarations of interest. Elected members and officers are now asked to declare any real or perceived interest that they may have in respect of the reports listed for consideration at the meeting this evening. Should an elected member or an officer declare an interest, I would remind them of the need to leave the chamber immediately prior to the item's discussion. And CEO, have you received any declarations of interest?
Yes, Mayor, I have received 4 and they're all related to item number 8, the annual budget. The first one is Director of Built and Natural Environment Matthew Hall has a proximity interest in relation to a project, the Path Renewal Mandurah Road, which is adjacent to his property. The next is a indirect financial interest for Councillor Bob Pond due to visit Mandurah and his membership as he is part owner of a bed and breakfast. Councillor Jess Smith has a proximity interest in relation to her residential house being in proximity to the Falcon Coastal Shared Path project, and Councillor Peter Rogers has a proximity interest due to one of the projects being the Black Spot program for traffic management, which is a proximity to his house as well.
Thank you, CEO. So when we get to that item, individual councillors will move in and out as we deal with the item. Okay, Councillor Zolani?
Yeah, I have property in city centre. Is that also proximity interest? That is in 7th Elizabeth Street. I just want to make it clear.
So the staff have gone through your interests and have identified projects, and these were the projects that the staff have identified that are in proximity interests to councillors' properties, and you were not, the projects that are in the budget, none of those are within a proximity interest of your property.
You saved my life.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 16, which is questions from elected members, and we have received 3 questions. I believe, is it 3 questions that we've received? 2 questions that we've received, I beg your pardon. 2 questions that we've received with notice. Am I reading those out, or are the individual councillors? Councillor Pond, do you wish to read your question out, Councillor Pond?
I don't have a copy directly in front of me, but I was hoping that somebody could remind us of the arrangements.
Beg your pardon,
It's in
Councillor
front.
Pond,
It is in front of me. Okay.
It's on the screen in front of us. So there we go. Councillor Pond, it's at the bottom. Could we just move this?
Where's- We'll be dealing. Tonight's meeting will be dealing with the 25-26 budget and subsequent rating strategy. Could I please have an outline of the various options available to ratepayers to assist with payments of their rates and how they would go about accessing those options? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pond. And we'll now go to the Director of Business Services for an answer.
Thank you, through the Chair. The City of Mandurah offers a range of flexible payment options to support ratepayers in meeting their rates obligations. Under the Local Government Act 1995, the statutory options available include, first, pay the rates in full on receipt of your rates notice, and the second is pay in 4 instalments, and that includes a $9 instalment fee and interest at 5.5%, with payments due on set dates outlined in the notice. The City of Mandurah also has additional options available to ratepayers that may suit their individual needs. The first is they can pay in 2 instalments, and that includes a $3 instalment fee and an interest of 5.5. The second is rate smoothing, that is weekly, fortnightly or monthly payments with no interest or fees attached. The City offers this from April to March each year, and it can be set up via via a form on the City's website or by contacting the City of Mandurah rates team directly or our customer service team. The third is ad hoc payment arrangements. These include flexible weekly, fortnightly or monthly options. They do have a $25 administration fee and they do attract a 7% interest. These can also be arranged via a form on the City of Mandurah's website or contacting our friendly customer service team. Fourth is hardship payment arrangements. The City of Mandurah has a dedicated policy and also has, this is tailored for those experiencing financial difficulty. These attract no interest and they're reviewed every month, and this this must comply with the City's collection of overdue debts policy. These arrangements can be accessed by contacting the City of Mandurah staff directly. For added convenience, the City offers a range of, or accepts payments by a range of methods. The first is BPay, the second is an online credit card payment via the City's website, the fourth is Australia Post Bill Pay, which means customers can attend a post office to pay their rates, or they can attend via over-the-counter payments at the City's admin centre or at Falcon Library. The City encourages that if anyone is experiencing difficulty in paying their rates, they're encouraged to contact the City of Mandurah customer service or rates team to discuss all the available options, and full details will also be included in the information pack when the rates are sent out. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. We'll now move to Councillor Zolani. You have submitted a question. If you'd like to read your question out.
This question I received from one of my residents. The question is, could you please tell me Mandurah is in regional WA or metro WA? Note, there used to be and still could be a border running east-west through Singleton. The Transport Department said north of that line is metro and south of that line is country. When it suits government departments, they say Mandurah is metro, and when it suits government department, they say Mandurah is country. I would like to know if there is a border separating metro and country. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zolani. I'll go to the CEO for that one.
Thank you. In summary, there is a border, but the City of Mandurah is included in the Peel Region scheme for land use planning purposes, and that's administered by the West Australian Planning Commission and is part of the Peel Region under the Regional Development Commission Act, which is administered by the Peel Development Commission. Mandurah is not within the Perth Metropolitan Region scheme boundaries. Mandurah is recognised for servicing and operational matters as regional. However, there are a number of state and federal agencies that use their own boundaries outside of these formal regulatory boundaries. Further, the Australian Bureau of Statistics for data collection combines Perth and Peel into the Greater Capital City statistical area, and there are variances within federal government programs that classify Mandurah as either metropolitan or regional.
Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Okay, we'll now move to questions from elected members without notice. Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, through the chair. Just in relation to the rates payments, and we do have, and I know we do have, where people can choose for 2 instalments or 4 instalments and pay an interest rate of 5.5%. Taking into account a lot of the people that do take up the instalment method are struggling to pay their bills. My question is, how do we differentiate, or how does the city differentiate between a person that asked to go 2 payments or 4 payments, and one that is can be covered under the financial hardship provisions?
Thank you, Councillor.
How does the city determine that?
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Through to the CEO.
Through the payment options, if someone elects to enter into instalments, they will just do that through opting to pay the first instalment amount. To go through a hardship application, there's a form that has to be completed, so they actually have to make contact with the city and complete a form, and there is a criteria that they have to meet for us to allow them to enter into payment arrangements over a certain amount of time that they feel that they need to pay those rates off. So instalments are a little bit different. They elect when they first make the payment, and they actually don't need to make any contact with the city compared to a hardship where they do have to contact the city for assistance and a form to be completed.
Thank you.
Subsequent question. If someone has elected to go on the instalment plan, and then a couple of payments in finding they are struggling, can they then apply for hardship?
Through you, CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, they can.
Thank you. Further question, Councillor Shoemaker.
This one's just in relation to the Western Foreshore and the budget of $6.344 million as in the long-term financial plan. How will this money, or how will this be funded?
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Through to you, CEO.
Through you, Mayor, in relation to the components which I think we have responded in the agenda as well, we are proposing that the car park, the intersection and the foreshore hazard treatment planning and design expenditure is funded from the lease revenue, and we are proposing that through the state government as well. In relation to the public open space and landscaping upgrades that are remaining, that will have to go through the long-term financial plan process, and council have to allocate those funds in a budget.
Subsequent question.
Sorry, just to follow up to clarify that question, is if we look at the $1.5 million for the intersection and roadworks, yes, it states that is to be funded if the proposal goes up through the leasee. However, $1.5 million will take approximately 6 years of the lease to pay back, but the roadworks will be done and paid for before then. So where is that money coming from? Is it coming from borrowings?
The proposal I'm not sure, I think it was through council originally, and then council will be reimbursed for that expenditure every time we receive rent revenue.
So sorry, that doesn't clarify. Are we borrowing money to pay for that?
I will have to get that confirmed. I might have to take that on notice in relation to how that is being proposed to be funded initially, and if it is borrowings, then the interest as well is would be requested to be funded from the lease revenue.
Thank you. Sorry, through the chair. If we could do that on the 6.344 million spend, understanding that the rates revenue is 6.2 million over 25 years, to look at that entire funding and how it's going to be funded in the short term by the city and how long it's going to take to recoup those funds.
We can provide that in the response.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. Is there any other questions? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. At the May 2025 Ordinary Council meeting, I asked several questions that were taken on notice. The responses provided in the June agenda left some matters unresolved and relied on Section 5.23 of the Local Government Act 1995 in ways that may not be applicable. These follow-up questions seek clarity to support transparency and assisted elected members in fulfilling their duties under Section 2.10. Where confidentiality applies, I've asked that information be provided under Section 5.92 or via confidential briefing. So I've got two series of questions, and the first question for the first series. At the May 2025 Ordinary Council meeting, I raised questions regarding an incident at the City's administration offices on the 4th of April 2025 involving a small Aboriginal advocacy group, which prompted senior staff to request police assistance, resulting in a significant response. Can the CEO confirm whether the investigation into the 4th of April 2025 incident has been completed, and if not, provide an estimated timeline for its completion? If the CEO considers the procedural status confidential under Section 5.23 of the Local Government Act, can the specific clause and reasoning be provided, noting that the question does not seek employee-specific details, simply confirmation on whether the report has been completed or not? Alternatively, can this status be disclosed to elected members via a confidential briefing under Section 5.92, consistent with our oversight duties under Section 2.10?
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Through to the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take that one on notice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Question 2, can the CEO identify policies, procedures or operational plans that were reviewed during the investigation, excluding any information specific to individual employees, to ensure transparency in the governance process followed? If Section 5.232A is being invoked, can the CEO explain how disclosure of general policy documents falls within that provision? If feasible, can confidential components be provided to elected members under Section 5.92 to support our role under Section 2.10?
Thank you for the question. Through to you, CEO.
I'll take that one on notice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question 3, can the CEO explain the basis for determining that no further briefing is required on the investigation, including whether the investigation has concluded and how elected members will otherwise be informed of its outcomes to fulfil our oversight role under Section 2.10? If the information is considered confidential, will the CEO provide it via a confidential briefing under Section 5.92?
Thank you. Through to the CEO.
I'll take that one on notice.
Thank you. Can the CEO confirm whether an investigation report was produced, and if so, whether it can be made available to elected members in a confidential format under Section 5.92 to support our governance and accountability duties under Section 2.10? If access is denied in full, can the CEO specify how Section 5.23, Part 2A, applies to the report in its entirety, rather than to specific employee-related sections?
Thank you.
I'll take that one on notice.
Thank you, Chair. And for the second series of questions, at the May 2025 Ordinary Council meeting, I raised questions regarding the legal advice obtained in response to the notice of motion, which proposed allowing elected members to use short clips from the City's publicly available YouTube videos of council meetings, as well as related copyright and constitutional considerations under the Copyright Act 1968 and the implied freedom of political communication. The following questions seek to address these matters. Question 5. Thank you for confirming that the legal advice was based on a single email to external counsel with attachments. Given that a summary of this email was included in the confidential legal advice provided to elected members, can the CEO confirm the original instruction email itself can be shared with elected members under section 5.92, given its relevance to our duties under section 2.10, in relation to the notice of motion, and the brief, as it is relevant to our decision-making duties under section 2.10 regarding the notice of motion?
Thank you. Through to the CEO.
I'll take that one on notice.
Thank you. Question 6. If the instruction email cannot be shared, can the CEO specify the legal or procedural grounds for its non-disclosure, such as legal personal privilege under section 5.232D, and explain why a summary was provided in lieu of the original document?
Thank you. Through to the CEO.
I'll take that one on notice.
Thank you.
Question 7. Follow-up. Can the CEO specify the legal or procedural basis, such as legal professional privilege, under section 5.232D? Point of order, please, Chair. I can hear some talking to my left. It's distracting.
If you could continue with your questions.
What's the point of order?
Relevance?
Okay. If you could continue with your questions, Councillor
Thank you.
Burns.
I'll commence this question again, please. Can the CEO specify the legal or procedural basis, such as a legal professional privilege under section 5.232D, that prevents elected members from accessing the written instructions to external legal counsel, given that those instructions relate directly to a council motion and are relevant to council's duties under section 2.10B? As section 5.92 provides councillors with access to information held by local government relevant to their role, can the CEO confirm whether the instructions will now be provided, and if so, when and in what format?
Thank you. Through to the CEO.
I'll take that one on notice.
Thank you.
Question 8. In addition to the legal advice already provided, can the CEO confirm whether any additional communications, written or verbal, occurred with the external legal provider after the initial brief was sent? If not, can this be explicitly confirmed in writing for the record?
Thank you. Through to the CEO.
I'll take that one on notice.
Thank you.
Question 9. Thank you for the explanation regarding the City's internal legal advice on the Copyright Act 1968 in developing policy GVN 11. Can the CEO confirm whether this internal legal advice can be shared with elected members under section 5.92 to support our policy review duties under section 2.10B? If access is restricted, can the CEO specify the applicable legal or procedural ground, such as legal privilege under section 5.23 part 2D, and consider a confidential briefing to ensure councillors are properly informed while maintaining confidentiality?
Thank you. Through to the CEO.
I'll take that one on notice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And finally, thank you for confirming the City's internal legal advice considered the implied freedom of political communication under the Australian Constitution in the development of policy GVN 11 and related policies. Can the CEO confirm whether this advice can be shared with elected members under section 5.92 to inform our policy review and decision-making responsibilities under section 2.10B, particularly regarding councillor use of council meeting footage? Additionally, can the CEO confirm whether the external legal advice on this matter was sought, and if not, explain why, particularly given that external advice was obtained for copyright wording in section 4.12 of policy GVN 11? If disclosure is restricted, can the CEO cite the legal basis, example, section 5.232D, and consider providing a confidential briefing?
Thank you.
I'll take that one on notice.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Burns, I would encourage you to submit questions early so that we can have answers. Thank you. We'll now move to item 17, which is, well, I should ask, are there any other councillors that have any questions? No, if that's the case, we'll move to item 17, which is business left over from the previous meeting, and there is none. We'll now move to item 19, which are reports from the Chief Executive Officer, and we will move to the first item, which is report 1, the update on Mary Street Leighton Place and Mary Street, Mandurah Road, Old Coast Road intersection. There is the council resolution is before you on the screen. I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder of that item. Councillor Cumberworth as the mover. Do I have a seconder for that item? Councillor Wilkins. Councillor Cumberworth, would you like to speak to the item?
The Mary Street, Leighton Place intersection coming into Old Coast Road roundabout is a significant traffic issue. It has been for some time. I welcome the administration's community consultation and I support this project being thoroughly investigated with an appropriate plan that is going to work for everyone moving into the future. And I think we need to get it right when we do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberworth. Move to Councillor Wilkins.
I agree with Councillor Cumberworth. Definitely an intersection that needs to be gotten right. Good to see the city taking on the feedback, as always, from the community, and also taking their time with the refinement of the design concept. Happy to support the recommendations, and should I still be here in 2026, I look forward to reading the report when it comes back to council.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Is there anyone wishing to speak against
question?
the item? Yes.
Please, Chair.
A question?
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Burns.
Could the relevant officer give a perspective on the time of the proposed works, if that's the outcome of the study, and if the works are required now, regardless of whether the Western Foreshore Commercial Precinct goes ahead or not, and provide further details as to any proposed modelling, whether it will only be constrained to modelling as if the Western Foreshore Precinct goes ahead, or will the city be modelling it another scenario if it does not go ahead?
Thank you. I'll put that direct that question to the Director of Built and Natural Environment.
Through the Mayor, and I may need perhaps some further clarification just to be able to respond to each of those questions. In response to question one, as things stand, the works are proposed to be undertaken during the 26-27 financial year, which is year 2 of the current long-term financial plan that will be considered tonight. Can I just get some further clarification on question 2, please?
Councillor Burns.
Of course, I'll try to track my sequence of questions too. Thank you, Chair. Secondly, is there any acknowledgement that the works are required independent of the Western Foreshore commercial development? And if that's the case, is there an intent to model both traffic flows as if the Western Foreshore commercial precinct goes ahead, and the other scenario that it does not go ahead?
Thank you, Councillor Burns. To the Director.
Through the Mayor, there is existing traffic congestion at the 2 intersections being considered, and certainly to relieve that congestion, the upgrade works that will ultimately be proposed would address, I guess, the present congestion issues. In relation to, I suppose, the modelling work, then yes, the modelling scenarios that have been considered to date and will be considered as part of the further traffic studies will consider with and without development in terms of the implementation of the existing concept master plan on the Western Foreshore site.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Anyone wishing to speak against the item? No? If that's a question from you, Councillor Shoemaker.
No, it was to speak against the
You're
item.
going to speak against the item?
Yep, thank you, through the Chair. The issue I have with spending $1.55 million on this intersection upgrade is basically this is about the proposed development and allowing for the anticipated traffic should the proposed development go ahead. Does the intersection require some work? Yes. does it require a major rebuild to $1.5 million? I doubt it. The 1 million, and in the report it states that the key stakeholders are local businesses at the shopping centre, and Left Coast Leisure Group is a major stakeholder in this situation, who happen to be the proponents for the licensed premises on A-class reserve. The cost of $1.5 million, and I'm assuming the $50,000 for planning, is to be borne by the City of Mandurah. But the $1.5 million, as it is stated here, this has been proposed to be funded from the rent received by the lessee of the Western Foreshore commercial proposal. As I iterated voiced in my question, the $1.5 million based on the lease will be somewhere around 6 years for the city to recoup the ratepayers' money. And this is where it also bothers me. If we're borrowing that money, then we're paying interest on top. I am not satisfied to the fact that this proposal will be approved by state government. I do not believe that we need to spend $1.5 million on a major intersection revamp when we could be spending a lot less for the traffic flow we have now. Now, there is no ifs or buts. The traffic flow, and I attend Anzac Day every single year, on that one day it's a quagmire for a few hours. But we handle that with parking on the Hall Park. We handle that with police traffic management, and it's finished within a couple of hours. To spend $1.5 million that won't, in my opinion, and having looked at the designs, alter the traffic quagmire anyway, I do not see the point. I think we should just look at a reseal, a minor changes to this intersection, which will benefit all. The traffic numbers right here and now don't warrant spending $1.5 million. Anzac Day doesn't warrant spending $1.5 million because you're still going to need traffic management as we have, and it currently works. So I am voting against the motion as put.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Wilkins, do you have a question?
Sorry, just a question of clarity. Is this not to note the planning and to undertake the relevant surveys? We're not deciding on the amount of money being spent on the project. Is that not coming back to council in 2026?
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Through to the CEO.
That's correct.
Thank you. If there is no further comment, we're voting by exception because we have someone online. So those that wish to vote against the item, we have 2. We have 3. Thank you. That item is carried. We'll now move. Sorry, we'll wait for the. Thank you, and we'll now move to report 2, which is the Rushton Park Precinct Master Plan. You have the recommendation in front of you. Can I please call for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Rogers and Councillor Smith. Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor. Very pleased to move the recommendation that's contained on the screen. The Rushton Park Master Plan has been informed by a community consultation process which has filtered into a number of the key objectives and principles that we are looking for to reshape to shape the master plan for the purposes of eventual upgrades to that area. That's been subject to quite a large community feedback into what has developed the plan. I also note from the report, it's great that we've also had input from our Strategic Economic Advisory Group in relation to this master plan, our Youth Advisory Group, and our Mandurah environmental advisory group in relation to the plan that have also provided consultation. As a result of that, the presentation, the council received a presentation report at a briefing, which ran through all of the elements of the master plan that's contained within the pack, and it was very exciting. And it also generated a number of questions, and councillors inevitably get into the space of asking detailed questions about practicalities when we're still at the master planning stage. It's pretty hard to contain your excitement sometimes, so I hope people forgive us for that. Nevertheless, to go back to community and say, is this what you think you're after in terms of a master plan? The council is now being requested to undertake a consultation session with the wider community in relation to the drafted plan. So happy to support the motion that would achieve that, and look forward to what comes back from community, particularly as is contained within the resolution there, specific targeted clubs and groups that would probably be high users of the space into the future. So their feedback in relation to that will be critical. So other than that, Mayor, I'm happy to support the resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, through the chair. Just echoing Councillor Rogers' sentiments, it was very exciting to be part of the initial sort of stage planning of the blueprint. It has been great to see the plan come together, and commend Ben and his team. It is the premier sort of sporting precinct in Mandurah. It does encompass so many different sporting groups: bowls, croquet, AFL, tennis and netball. I feel the draft makes the most of the space and the multi-use co-location, which aligns with core principles from the Community Infrastructure Plan. I also really love the different sections. It's not just about sport. There's also sections involving children's nature play areas and walking, walking and for the whole community to enjoy. And also the future plans with the possibility of economic development I'd love to see some bands coming and playing on the Oval. But again, this is all for, have to put out for community consultation. So I'm excited to hear what the community have to say, and I'm more than happy to second the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Does anyone have any questions in relation to this report?
Just a quick one. Through the Mayor. Just wanted to get an idea when we're talking about consultation with these groups, so the youth group, community group, sporting groups, is it the consultants come in, go away, bang, done, or is it ongoing kind of co-design that we're looking at?
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Through to
Through you, Mayor.
Councillor Wright.
Oh, yeah. So in relation to the consultation, it was actually the Mayor and I that attended for the direct user group. So the consultant was the initial one where all the groups were together. And then once we had developed the plan, then the Mayor and I went out and met with the stakeholders who we already have a relationship with, and a lot of our community team have a relationship with as well, because they are the facility hirers. So we will continue to engage with them. We have said that we aren't at detailed design yet, so the exact location, the need and the fit out isn't this stage. These are really just a concept for now. So we'll continue to work with user groups on how they would use a facility or an oval as well. So we'll continue to engage with them.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other questions? No. Is there anyone wishing to oppose this particular item? Councillor Cumberworth? Councillor, you're opposing it, or you're speaking against it?
Speaking against.
Speaking against it.
We have been looking for a new location for netball for quite some time. My understanding is that netball was happy to use the space they have. I've inspected the netball courts. One of the netball courts is on different levels. I personally feel that we could accommodate all the existing user groups within the Russian Park area, multiple AFL fields that are played by professional teams every weekend. are all different shapes and sizes. That is the spirit of a field. A field is created based on the area that's available. I personally feel the Rushton Park football oval is adequate in its size. It's comparable to AFL fields. I think that this plan is taking resources away from other projects that could be focused on in the Mandurah area, and I just feel for the netball groups which are desperate for a place to call home and appropriate netball courts, and I think that this plan is displacing netball when they don't have a home currently.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberworth. If there is no other comments, I'll move to Councillor Shoemaker. Question?
Thank you. And could we get a response to Councillor Cumberworth, what he said about the netball course, please, and an
Thank you,
update?
Councillor Shoemaker. See you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the question. So in relation to the netball, although our location hasn't been announced, there is a commitment by the state government for netball courts to be located in Mandurah, and the Mandurah Netball Association are very excited about the expansion and the opportunity to operate out of more courts that have been included in the $20 million state government announcement of funding, and they have been a part of our engagement and completely support the relocation to enable them to expand their netball offering to the community.
Thank you, CEO. Are there any other questions from councillors?
Yes, please, Chair.
Councillor Burns.
We've already outlined that there are various stakeholder groups that have been consulted with as one group and also independently. I don't want to assume, but will those groups also be encouraged to make a submission during this 28-day consultation period, and therefore they have a chance to get on the record for public consumption what their views are on the plan?
Thank you, Councillor Burns. To the CEO.
Through you, Mayor, yes, we have already told them that when the submission period is open, that we will notify them of the consultation and that they are open to provide a submission as well.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? If not, I'll ask Councillor Rogers to close.
Nothing further from me, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will put that to the vote, calling for anyone who is opposed to that item, knowing that we've got Councillor Kearns online. Councillor Cumberworth is opposed. That is carried. Thank you. We'll now move to the next item, which is the Lakelands train station, which is report number 3, the Lakelands train station parking restrictions and policy amendment. The resolution, council resolution, is before you, and I believe we have an amendment to that resolution.
Just a
Councillor
question
Rogers.
on process. Is it moving the motion and then seeking the?
I think that might be the way.
Yeah.
So I'll move. Is anyone happy to move the motion, the council resolution that is before you on the screen? Councillor Zilani and Councillor Rogers. Councillor Zilani.
What is the amendment? Amendment there?
So I think we're going to come. We'll allow you to open, and then Councillor Rogers will foreshadow his. He will make an amendment then. Yes. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. I speak tonight in support of the officer's recommendations. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I speak tonight in support of the officer's recommendations. Just a minute. Let me begin by sincerely thanking the officers for preparing this report. It is a timely, well-crafted document that demonstrates a clear understanding of the challenges we are facing. As a councillor of this area, I have had many conversations with residents over the years, at their doorsteps, at community events, and even while out shopping. One of the most common concerns I hear, especially from those living near the Lakeland train station, is about parking. Residents are frustrated, commuters are frustrated, and I completely understand why. The proposed parking restrictions in this report will help improve access for local residents and their visitors, which I welcome. But let's be honest, it won't solve the real issue. The parking problem for commuters is getting worse, not better. And while these restrictions may ease local congestions, they will likely make it even harder for those trying to catch the train every day. This isn't just about inconvenience. This is about access to public transport, about people being able to get to work, school, medical appointments, and back home again without unnecessary stress. I still remember very clearly when the then State Tourism Minister said in Parliament on 13th March 2019 that Lakelands was, I quote, a train station that no one needs, end of quote. Yet today, we are dealing with a shortage of parking because the demand is so high. While parking capacity ultimately falls under the state government's responsibility, this issue is deeply personal to me. I fought hard to get this station built, not for myself, but for the thousands of residents who had been neglected for nearly 2 decades. I advocated, I lobbied, I listened. Residents stood with me, and together we succeed. I am proud to have played a leading role in that achievement. But now, the next battle begins. The state government must step up and take the responsibility for the parking shortfall. And they must also honor their promise to build a new train station at Karnap. That would significantly ease the pressure on Lakelands. However, we cannot afford to wait indefinitely. That is why I believe this council must now identify commuter parking at Lakelands Station as a key advocacy priority. Under the Local Government Act, it is the mayor who holds the authority and responsibility to advocate on behalf of the city. I trust the mayor will embrace this responsibility and elevate the matter where it counts most, at the state level. As a councillor, I will offer my full support and work in partnership with Mayor to ensure our advocacy is focused, united, and relentless. Because while I cannot speak on behalf of council alone, I will never stop speaking up for the people I represent. I have always believed in the people power. We saw what was possible when we fought for the Lakeland train station and won. I believe we can do it again by working together, standing firm, and not giving up until our community gets the right infrastructure it deserves. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor Zolani. I'll now move to Councillor Rogers, seconding the recommendation for you on the screen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to second the recommendation that's contained on the screen. I agree with some of the points that have been raised by Councillor Zolani, but I'm not sure that I agree with every point that's been made there. I think the large issue in relation to the problem that's been created here is not necessarily demand, it's that there isn't enough space for parking in the section council adopted a position many years ago that that provided its view that the priority should be Carnup. So in that respect, I agree with Councillor Solani that I would love for the state government to deliver Carnup, as I think was the council's position many years ago. In relation to the problem that's been caused now by the construction of the Lakelands station parking precinct, we do have residents in the area that are subject to parking overflow in the area, and I think that these parking restrictions that are being posed in the recommendation are very sensible to manage that issue, which I guess has now been thrust upon us by the location of this infrastructure in a residential area. So I'm supportive of the restrictions that are put there. I'll come to my amendment in a second. There's a number of increases to the city's expenditure that will occur through creating these parking restrictions. I'll come to one part of it in a second in the amendment, but in relation to the ongoing operational expenditure that now increases, I'm assured that probably some aspect of fees and penalties that are collected on behalf of the city for managing the restrictions will offset the increased operational expenditure and should come out sort of net zero, hopefully. And with that, I'm happy to close the debate as the seconder, or sorry, not close the debate, close my comments as the seconder, but then happy to move to a separate recommendation for the amendment.
So you're putting forward an amendment, Councillor Rogers?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. It's just that a fourth bullet point be added, which states, request the Chief Executive Officer write to the Public Transport Authority seeking reimbursement for all expenses associated with the installation of necessary parking restriction signage in recognition of Council's long-standing concerns regarding the Lakelands train station parking supply within the precinct. So I'm happy to put that as
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Can I call for a seconder to that amendment? Councillor Jackson? Councillor Rogers, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Contained within the report, like I was mentioning previously, is a number of operational increases that are sort of forced upon the city. I have a feeling that if we ask the PTA to cover ongoing operational expenditure, we will get a pretty swift no back. However, for the one-off costs of putting covering the costs of the parking permits, I don't know that the city should necessarily have to bear that out of a state government decision that we advised might be a problem in relation to parking. I think it is a fair request to go back and ask the state government through the PTA to cover that. So I think council sort of has suitable, almost moral grounds, I guess you could say, to make that request to the PTA, noting that they're well within their rights to also say no to that request. I have to say as well that the staff have been engaged in a process around seeking to have the increased costs covered as much as possible, but I think it's important that council provides leadership to that and direction to the organisation to go and seek reimbursement from those costs, for those costs as well.
Thank you.
Other than that, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Councillor Jackson, seconding the amendment?
Yeah, I do. Very well put, Councillor Rogers. Mature, succinct. I, on the other hand, feel really childish because I feel like saying, I told you so. We told you so. And we did. However, this is a very mature response, I think, to where we find ourselves right now.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. So just for the amendment, is there anyone wishing to vote against the amendment? No, if that's the case. So we now have the substantive recommendation, which now has the point 4 in it. Is there anyone wishing to ask a question? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the officer recommendation, particularly points 2 and 3, it's quite prescriptive in the times that have been illustrated. Could the officer, and excuse me, you had a 503-page agenda to read, and I can't quite recall if the policy prescribes those times or is it just the recommendation and therefore the motion? So my question is in two parts. How did you derive at those times? And secondly, should they not satisfy the intent of this? What's the process for amending or changing that? Do we have to bring a new motion that counters this, or do we just amend the policy, for example?
Thank you. Through to the Exec Manager of Strategy and Economic.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. So the decision around the times for the Monday to Friday 3-hour parking limit, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. was really around trying to balance the impact on the residents to have to display permits versus the time period that most commuters are wanting to spend at the area. So that is bespoke to the recommendation. It's not from within the policy. And if those times did want to be changed in the future, we would need a recommendation of council to adjust the timings.
Thank you. Further questions?
So that recommendation would be a new motion and officer report, or if it's, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's not in the policy, then there's no sense in amending the policy itself. So it's through a new motion.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. How confident? I agree with Councillor Zolani about this not being the solution, I guess, to the issue. But just wondering how this will impact on our already overloaded ranges, and if the city are confident that we have the resources to, I guess, police an area that I guess is a nightmare for illegal parking as it is.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Through to this. Back to you, Brendan.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The selection of the restrictions, so in the report just noted the choice of no parking unless a permit's been displayed makes the enforcement a lot easier because the permit is either present or not. And so time parking can be an issue in that way. So I think we've tried to minimise the impact on the labour and resourcing, and we have been spending time up there already, and I think we have planned around the opening and the work that's going to be required to enforce it. So I think we'll be in a good position to be able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Councillor Rogers.
Thanks. Apologies. I just remembered a question I forgot. In the report on page 37, that second last paragraph, it notes that in December we wrote to the Minister for Transport seeking advice not only in the proposed short-term but also the long-term actions, and a bit of the conversation today has gone into the long-term possible solution for the area. So the actions from the state government in response to the inadequate parking, but I didn't see in the report what the response from the Minister was in relation to that. I was just wondering if we could get an update from the CEO as to what the response was on that.
Councillor Rogers, the CEO.
Particularly around the long-term solutions, I guess, is the basis for the question.
Thank you, through the Mayor. The response is actually a reply was received by the Minister's Chief of Staff on the 11th of February 25, and that's on page 36.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Sorry, apologies. I remember why I didn't ask the question now because I went back and read it. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Cumberworth.
Mark, please be excused from the chamber.
Yes.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I'm going to put that to the vote. Is there anyone that opposes the item, recognising that there is now a fourth point before us as well? No, there is no one speaking against it. Okay, thank you. That is carried. And apologies. Got there in the end. Okay, we'll now move to the next item, which is the Delegated Authority Annual Review, which is quite a comprehensive recommendation that is before us. Can I please call for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Shoemaker and Councillor Wright. Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, it was quite a bit of reading. It was quite a bit of reading this entire week, or since Thursday anyway, the weekend. Look, basically this is housekeeping work updating issues and words that need to be updated. Nothing further.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Ray.
Through the Mayor, I'd just like to acknowledge the CEO and her team. The annual review of the delegated authority reinforces we've got pretty solid foundations in place as a city and a professional team that operates within it. It's essential for the smooth operation of the city. It's a serious governance function, and the fact we get to review it annually is an important accounting measure. So I just want to say thank you, and that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Is there anyone with any questions? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. I notice in the tables presented under the delegation, there is a row with conditions listed. And before I commenced really reading it, I was curious as to know how policy fits in with these, the delegation and the delegated authority. I noticed on the DAEMS 02, the Bushfires Act 1954, there was a condition listed that this delegation must be exercised in accordance with any relevant council policy that may be enforced from time to time. Could the relevant officer outline why that appeared to be the exception to the rest of the other tables? Does that imply that council policy is not relevant to the delegated authority? In other words, or is it assumed that the delegations must adhere to council policy and that this is an anomaly?
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Through to the CEO.
Through the Mayor, and the bushfire one might be, if the Executive Manager has anything else he can add to that. In the delegations in the schedule, you'll also notice that there is a section of policy, and in there we also identify what policies apply to that delegation. There are times that we will say in accordance with the policy, but we will also refer to the policy section as well to outline. So there are times that we will, and then there are times that we rely on the policy and also processes in the decision-making process.
Thank you, CEO.
Subsequent.
Further question, Councillor Burns.
So in the event that the delegate wishes to make a decision that doesn't comply with a policy, are they obliged to bring that decision before council for a decision?
Thank you, Councillor.
If it is not expressly stated in that delegated authority?
Thank you, Councillor Burns. To the CEO.
Through you, so if Mayor, if in the policy it is very prescriptive, then we will bring that to council for a decision.
Thank you, CEO. Are there any other further questions? Is there anyone speaking against this item? If that's the case, I'll put it to the vote. Is there anyone? There is no one speaking against it. No one voting against it. That item is carried. Thank you. We'll now move to the next item, which is the caretaker period policy. The recommendation is before you on the screen. Can I please ask for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Rogers and Councillor Pond. Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation on the screen is quite short and succinct. It's the adoption of the amended caretaker policy as per the attachment. The basis for a caretaker policy essentially ensures the protection of the organisation and its staff during moments of elections to ensure that an individual's role on council can't abuse the decision-making function or the role of council whilst in the heat of a political contest. So it's good for governance, but I think it's also a good risk mitigation, risk management tool that helps protect the integrity of the council decision-making process and ensuring that it's free from politics of an election campaign. What's great is that the City of Mandurah voluntarily adopted a caretaker period many, many moons ago and has served us through a number of council elections, and I think has been a really great policy that the city had voluntarily adopted and which was sort of retweaked prior to each election with the help of our governance team. It's been really, really helpful, and I think, like I said, a good risk management tool prior to each election. The purposes of this report is that now the state government legislation has finally caught up to where we are as a local government, and there are now prescribed requirements under the Act that need to be amended into the caretaker policy. So not much we can do. We have to follow the law, but the fundamentals of the caretaker policy still exist and primarily exists in the same fashion that it did before. So happy to endorse the policy, amended policy.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers, and we'll just go to the CEO because there is an amendment that has been sent out.
Yeah, so if the mover and a seconder are okay, the officer sent through an officer amendment this afternoon, and it was to adopt the caretaker period policy as per attachment 5.2 with an amendment to section 5.2, as attachment 5.2, but an amendment to section 5.2 of the caretaker period policy that states that where a candidate requires the assistance of the city to respond to a request made by an elector, resident or ratepayer, then the city will provide the response directly to the requested elector, resident or ratepayer, and then the additional wording of a copy to the candidate will be sent if requested. If you're happy.
If I could just close out my opening based on that. Agree, and thank you to Councillor Shoemaker for raising this point. It's a good point. When we originally adopted the caretaker policy, I think where council was at was a different space than probably where it is 6, 7, 8 years later. We are far more into the strategy, far more into the strategic finance implications, far more into policy probably than we were back then. As an issue of that, I think during election times there was a lot of actual sort of administrative actioning requests that were coming through during election periods, not just for requests for information, but literally fix the footpath. And that was probably inappropriate at the time. Given the changing nature of this council, and I think the councillors that comprise it, it's a good pickup that we don't give up the role of being a councillor, notwithstanding that we're in an election period, and given the vast bulk of what we receive through our inboxes is often request for information, we probably reached a stage of maturity at council that we can scale that back slightly and allow for the flow of information throughout the process of a campaign. And I think the sensible addition to that is that it's also provided to the other candidates. So that makes a lot of sense so that individual councillors are not benefited by information and that all that are running for that particular ward are. So a sensible amendment and a good pick up by Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Councillor Pond.
Once again, after Councillor Rogers, very little to add, being quite thorough. It is a good policy, a very important policy for outlining responsibilities and therefore providing protections to both candidates, sitting members, staff, and all around it. And I very much support it and would encourage my fellow councillors to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pond. Are there any questions? Is there anyone wishing to speak against the item? Is there anyone wishing to vote against the item? Okay, that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We will now move to Report 6, which is the corporate business plan. The recommendation is before you on the screen. And I'll call for a mover and a seconder of that, Councillor Zolani and Councillor Wilkins. Councillor Zolani.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, I'm speaking in support of the officer's recommendations. The report presented is thorough, well-researched, and demonstrates a high standard of professional work. I would like to sincerely thank the officers involved for their efforts. Just a second, where I lost it. Since 2019, I have consistently advocated for 0% rate increases and have often been criticized by some of my colleagues for doing so. Questions are sometimes raised about why I support long-term planning documents like the 4-year business plan and the 10-year long-term financial plan, which are often linked to rate increases. Let me clarify my position. I believe there is a clear distinction between supporting a visionary plan for our city and agreeing to fund it solely through higher rates. In my view, we do not necessarily need to increase rates to implement these plans. I genuinely believe that our ratepayers are already paying more than they should. This is where the leadership and advocacy role of a mayor becomes critical. Under the Local Government Act, it is the mayor, not a councillor, who is formally empowered to advocate on behalf of the city. While it may be administratively straightforward to increase rates, it takes a strong leadership and a strategic lobbying to bring in funding from external sources. In my opinion, the mayor must take a proactive role in securing funding from state and federal governments, as well as from grants, partnerships, and regional development initiatives. These external funding streams can support road and transport upgrades, tourism and small business incentives, environmental sustainability and coastal protection, community and youth facilities, public safety programs, affordable housing projects, and major infrastructure that improves livability for all our residents. These are not just ideas. They are real, achievable opportunities that reduce the burden on our ratepayers and allow us to deliver the outcomes outlined in the 4-year business plan without rate increase. And only an independent mayor, free from party political influence, can engage effectively and honestly with decision makers at all levels without compromise or conflict of interest. I firmly believe that in the upcoming October council election, the people of Mandurah will choose an independent mayor with a proven record of advocacy, someone who has already delivered results like securing Lakeland train station and successfully advocating for 14 additional police officers to be deployed to the Mandurah police station. A person who has demonstrated the ability to get results can also be trusted, be secured further funding.
Point of order,
when
Mayor.
given the
Can I just have a
opportunity.
point of order? Thanks. We're just wondering what this is, that election speak, campaign speak, how that's relevant to the item that we're considering. So going to the standing orders, a point of order on relevance to the item that we're considering.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Councillor Zalani, we're talking about the corporate business plan here. Could you please
I
remain
understand,
okay?
but you need to listen finishing.
Councillor Zalani, could you?
Yeah,
We are dealing with the
if I finish, then you can understand the relation between that. Let me finish. Where are you? Okay, that is why a person who has okay, that is why I am supporting the officer's recommendation today, not because I support rate increases, but because I believe in this city's potential and in the people of Mandurah who will soon make a choice for a stronger, independent leadership. And let me be equally clear, I will not support any increases in rates. So there is, Mayor, Chair, there is a connection between my speech. So I didn't do any campaigning speech. I said the leadership exec leadership can bring our rates reduced. No need to increase the rate. That's the point.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councillor Zolani. I'll now move to Councillor Wilkins, who's the seconder for the item. Councillor
Thank you, Mayor.
Wilkins.
Thank you, Councillor Zolani. Sorry, almost lost me there with all that rates talk and Merrill pitching. Sorry, I'm also in support of the officer's recommendations to approve the City of Mandurah Corporate Business Plan, which outlines key priorities and actions to be delivered over the next 4 years. This plan is essential in translating the long-term goals of our community into practical funded projects and programs. It's been developed through a thorough annual review and includes clear categorisation of each priority, identifying whether it's currently funded or will require further investment. Have to clarify that there's a few red dots on there, guys, so you might have to get to work fixing that. But this ensures transparent and realistic approach, allowing the city to make informed decisions that deliver real outcomes for Mandurah. The adoption of this plan ensures that the city remain compliant, accountable and well positioned to manage its financial and operational responsibilities. I'd also just like to commend the city again for continually engaging with residents. This plan reflects a strong alignment with community priorities and yeah, happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Are there any questions in relation to the corporate business plan? No? Is there anyone wishing to speak against the corporate business plan? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, I can't support this corporate business plan despite its well-prepared presentation by City staff. As Councillor Zolani and Wilkins have outlined, it is indeed a fine document, and I sincerely appreciate all the hard work that went into it. As you are aware, I'm currently opposing this year's proposed budget and long-term financial plan, both of which rely heavily on a significant rate increase. I will provide further details during the upcoming debate, but my position is quite clear. The costings outlined in this corporate business plan closely align with those in the aforementioned documents, which is expected. However, this alignment puts me in a difficult position. Given my opposition to the proposed budget and rate rise, it would be inconsistent and illogical for me to support this plan. If anyone can offer a compelling argument to alter my view, I am willing to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Zolani, do you wish to close? Okay.
I want to close.
Beg your pardon.
Just wondering, should this fail and we have no corporate business plan, what happens then? What are the implications?
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. To the CEO.
Through you, Mayor, there is a legislative requirement to review the corporate business plan on an annual basis, so we would not meet that. The corporate business plan, although you have a budget, if Council adopted a budget, we would be able to continue to operate because there is a budget, but the corporate business plan enables us to set projects. We use a corporate business plan and turn that into our service statements and our team business plans, so staff have clear direction that Council have endorsed a corporate business plan for the next 12 months. And so it is around our operational planning that it would impact as well, that although you've set a budget, there's really no clear direction on the other side, and that's generally through the corporate business plan.
Councillor.
Councillor Burns. Thank you, Chair. It prompted a question from me. We do have a corporate business plan currently for 24 to 28. Is the requirement to review the corporate business plan, or is it to endorse by decision of Council a new corporate business plan annually? So therefore that speaks to the repercussions. If this one failed, you've alluded that we've got a budget and a long-term financial plan. Does that meet statutory requirements to continue operations?
Thank you, Councillor Burns. To the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. So under the Local Government Administration Regulations, the local government is to review the current corporate business plan for its district every year.
Thank you, CEO.
So to be absolutely sure, if this motion failed, we could continue on with business as outlined.
Comes through the CEO.
Through you, Mayor, in relation to last year's corporate business plan, there are some outdated projects, completed projects, projects that potentially are refined now. So it is really important that every year it is reviewed to make sure that the projects that we are putting to council to be next year's projects are the most relevant and have the budgets. If there are sometimes projects that are included in a previous year that we have we need to defer or are no longer relevant, and if they're in the previous corporate business plan, and we have and our budget reflects that we aren't going to undertake that project, then there is a misalignment there as well.
Thank you, CEO.
Further clarification?
Councillor Burns.
So if I'm correct, and it's not for me to put words into Councillor Jackson's, reframe his question, it's not my intent to do so, but what your response just then, CEO, if I understood it, you spoke to the need for a review, but not necessarily the consequences if this. I'm still not clear on the consequences if this fails. I understand practically how, but like sort of legislatively.
Thank you, Councillor Burns.
Are we gridlocked?
To the CEO.
Through you, Mayor, it's a non-compliance with the regulations.
Thank you.
To not approve it.
Through the Mayor, it's a non-compliance of the regulations that council have not reviewed the corporate business plan.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm going to move to Councillor Zolani. Councillor Zolani to close.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you, Mayor. I would like to request, in my closing, I would like to request my councillor's colleague to be patient to listen my speech, because my speech has connection between every sentence. Before, every year I got blamed by
Councillor Zolani, I'm going to...
No, I'm closing.
Excuse me, Councillor Zolani, would you please cease there? I'm going to warn you now around relevance under 7.7 of the standing orders. Please, we are dealing with the corporate business plan. I'm asking you to close.
Corporate business plans, because my everything is connected with each other. In the plan, I want to show how leadership can effectively fulfill our long-term 4 years business plan and 10 years long-term financial plan. Effectively can finish it without increasing the rates. That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zolani. Is there anyone who wishes to vote against the corporate business plan? Councillor Shoemaker and Councillor Burns. That is carried. Thank you. We'll now move to the adoption of the long-term financial plan. I will ask for a mover and a seconder, Councillor Wright and Councillor Smith. Councillor Wright.
Through the Mayor. I'll actually touch on leadership through this, because leadership is about getting things done, but actually having solutions to problems. And when I look at the long-term financial plan, we've got clearly there's detailed long-term modelling in there. There's forward planning in there, and there's a genuine effort to provide financial sustainability while still delivering on community expectations. So I'd like to thank the CEO and her staff for the leadership you've shown to the city and to the councillors in the development of this plan. I also think it's important that we need to be honest in our communication with our community. There are financial pressures that are outside the council's control and the city's control across the world at the moment. If we look at inflation, that has come down, possibly could go back up. There's also external cost increases, and there's also federal government and state government policy that impacts on our own budget. I really appreciated how the city staff stepped out the impact of the impact of the cost increases across the separate parts of the long-term financial plan, specifically wages, 45% of our budget. They've gone up 3.5%. Materials and contracts, almost 50% of the budget, they're up 2.75%. Utilities, including energy, and if we look at the contestable energy sites and the changes in the the cost of electricity through that is up 9.1% on around about 4% of our budget, with insurance going up 8.6%, and that's 1.2% of the budget. These costs are unavoidable if we want to bring our financial ratios into recommended ranges over the course of the long-term financial plan. I know there are some things there that do concern me. One, for my mind, is renewable energy. I have had thoughts around that in the past that I've shared, but certainly from me, when the city received feedback from residents around renewable energies, we were under the impression from the communication at the time that it would be a cheaper form of energy. The true cost of renewables is now coming through, and I believe it's a more expensive form at this point in time, and that will hit our budget. And we need to realise that, and it's probably a discussion that many in the community are having at the moment. The long-term financial plan, it's a useful document. For my mind, if we talk about planning for the future, this provides a clear picture of how money is being spent over the next decade. There are no hidden surprises in this plan. Our community have access to this plan. They can see where the money is going. With anything, there are financial risks in life, and the long-term financial plan, I think, limits these surprises for us. And it also allows us to see where we might be able to find savings or reduce duplication. It enables strategic decisions to be made because cost can be linked to clear strategic priorities, and you can then spot areas where projected expenses can be adjusted or reconsidered in time. For me, the plan gives us the tools we need to secure long-term stability while responding to genuine community priorities. It also reminds us around the need to be transparent about our trade-offs. I'm happy to support it. I'd encourage my fellow councillors to support it. And I do want to thank the team again for the leadership you've displayed with this. I do know there's a lot of pressure on you to get it right, and I believe that you've got a great balance with it at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Smith. Thank you, through the chair. So under section 27C of the Local Government Act 1995, one of the key roles of council is to plan strategically for the future of the district. I believe the long-term financial plan, or the LTFP, is a fundamental component of that responsibility and is critical to safeguarding the future of our community. Over the past 8 months, councillors have undertaken a thorough and detailed review of the LTFP through the financial implication briefings, or the FIB. These sessions have been open, transparent and marked by robust and sometimes constructive discussions. I commend the administration for facilitating such comprehensive processes. The LTFP underpins our long-term financial sustainability while aligning with the community needs and priorities set out in the Mandurah Strategic Community Plan. By adopting the LTFP, Council will clearly articulate its financial direction and capacity, enabling more informed, evidence-based decision-making. A closer look at the plan and supporting documents highlights the scale of the city's responsibility. Council oversees the maintenance of, not just, but 26 bridges, 396 parks and open spaces, 22 sporting reserves, 144 playgrounds, 780 kilometres of roads, 627 kilometres of footpaths, 81 jetties and wharves, 160 natural bushland areas, numerous buildings and community assets. Given the breadth of these assets, and any changes to funding levels or service provision will have a wide-reaching implication. This may include delays or cancellations of critical projects, increased reliance on borrowing, deterioration in asset condition and greater pressures on reserve funds. The LTFP provides a structured and transparent roadmap to manage these challenges responsibly. It's essential for supporting not just the city's financial health, but the long-term wellbeing and the livability of our community. It's important to me that we maintain the current levels of services our community enjoys. If the proposed recommendation is not approved, these services may be compromised, potentially shifting the financial burden onto future ratepayers. I can only speak for myself when I say I truly value living in Mandurah and raising my family here, and I intend to stay here and see through this 10-year plan. At a grassroots level, I really want assurance that, for example, if the Falcon skate park gets vandalised again, We have adequate funding available for timely repairs. To date, I've not had any resident approach me with a desire to reduce services or cancel any projects. On the contrary, I believe this plan is both reasonable, responsible, and upholds the principle of intergenerational equity. I've read and considered the community submissions which have consistently called for improved efficiency. I appreciate the administration has responded to this feedback by introducing an efficiency program that includes permanent and one-off cost savings, business improvements, and thorough reviews of service and programs. With respect, in relation to the community feedback, with respect to the current cost of living pressures, I hear you. I want to acknowledge how difficult things are for many in our community. My own family has to utilise the rate smoothing option, and we choose the monthly option. We've found it to be a helpful option, simply set up and alleviate some of my family's financial stresses. This is precisely why maintaining community assets is so important, particularly for those who are doing it tough. Despite recent media commentary regarding local government spending, I want to make it clear that we're not misusing public funds. There's no extravagance or pocket lining. There's no champagne or oysters that I know of. We do, but what we do have is a strong, committed leadership team working diligently in the best interests of the community. For these reasons, I'm proud to second the adoption of the Mandurah Long-Term Financial Plan 2026 to 2035 and support the amended council financial position and performance policy.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to ask a question, or is there anyone? Councillor Schumacher?
Speak against.
Yes, I'm just coming to speaking against. Would you like to speak against the item?
Thank you. Yes, I am speaking against the long-term financial plan. In this financial plan, the Western Foreshore Precinct Plan and development was added to the plan itself. This was for an amount of $6.344 million. Now, there are parts of the actual Western Foreshore Precinct Plan which I agree with, and the expenditure I agree with. There is some I do not. I do agree with the skate park funding of $368,000. That was, the skate park was planned back from 2019 and formed part of the overall development for there, which is 40 bays to be added. Those 40 bays will also add as a parking point for people crossing the bridge and going to our hospitality and shopping. I'm sort of, the expense of the 40 bays, when it takes into account the planning, is $368,000 or at $9,200 per bay. The expansion of the War Memorial Car Park, I do not agree with, as I do not believe it's necessary, which is the 96 bays, which funnily enough works out to $5,302 a bay. So I'm not sure why there is such a marked difference between two car parks in the same area. The reason I say I do not support the $509,000 to be spent on the 96 bays is because when it comes to Anzac Day, we have always used Hall Park as the car park, without an issue, without a problem. The only reason you'd need 96 new bays, an expansion, is for a commercial premises, which it's obviously of no secret I have voted against, and I'm still voting against it and following that through. The coastal hazard treatment and treatments and planning, totally agree with. They need to be done. The statement of, well, this is going to be funded by the lease payments from Left Coast, all good and well, but we're talking 25 years. These are things that the City of Mandurah have to do anyway, and probably and possibly could have been done years ago, possibly, which is the footpath, the foreshore renewal, and erosion mitigation need to be done. The War Memorial Car Park upgrade, totally agree. It is well and truly overdue to be dug up and relaid. And that is sufficient for Anzac Day because, as I said, we use Hall Park for the parking, we use traffic management police to get rid of the traffic. That is our busiest time of the year on that park. What I do not believe is required is 1.5, and I've already said this, so I'm repeating myself, unfortunately, $1.55 million for the intersection works. Do I believe there needs to be work there, improvements? Yes. Do I think there need to be such major works at 1.55 million? No, I do not. So the new Warmerwell car park, I do not agree with that. Oh, sorry. No, I don't agree with that. 509,000. Public open space and landscaping upgrades to the Western Foreshore, 1.882 million. The place is beautiful now. What is there we need to do to that? To the sum of $1.882 million. Put in some daisies? I don't know. The emphasis should be on the car park. The coastal hazardous treatments is an absolute priority, and it should have been over the last couple of years. So I don't have a problem with that. But therein lies why I can't support the LDP. All this was added this year. It is a huge cost impost on the budget at 6.344 million. Yes, we're going to get it back possibly get it back, should the commercial business last 25 years, should it last 25 years. If it doesn't, we're carrying the can, but the 25 years, the actual revenue from the lease is under what we'll be spending that people are hoping this is going to cover. Ratepayers, the skate park, coastal hazard treatments, the Warmerwell park upgrade, yes, we have to do that anyway. We know that. Ratepayers know that. Relying on the potential commercial enterprise to pay for it in 25 years' time, I think is ridiculous. So I will not be supporting the long-term financial plan.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Is there anyone wishing to speak for the item? Question, Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Just a question of clarity in regards to Councillor Shoemaker's remarks about the council or the city being required to carry the can if the tenant isn't in the location beyond a certain time. Is the agreement not passed on to the next tenant of that building should the proposed tenant go out of business?
Through you, Mayor. We haven't formalised the lease, but there will be protections in place for the city, which includes that any assignment of the lease has to be approved by the city. So the council would have a consideration if they were to transfer or wanting to transfer the lease over, that it would be brought before council for that decision. And so that would be available, and we would also have in there some security in relation to making sure that they would make good of the site at a time where they have indicated their lease has expired. They would have the council would then have a choice of whether they would decide to ask the lessee to retain the buildings as they are or to remove those buildings, and we will have that security in place.
Thank you. There's no speakers for the item. I will ask...
Just a question following on from that. Through the chair, in the case of the commercial business closing their doors, going broke and bankrupt, and let's just say 15 years' time, where's the city left then?
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Through the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. There will be security in place, and then the council, there will be, if I'm not really wanting to go into hypotheticals, but through a bankruptcy process, there's a liquidation process as well that they have to go through. But I can't really comment on a hypothetical situation apart from that we will ensure, like we always do with our contracts, that we have security in place to protect the city.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
Sorry, just a subsequent question.
Councillor Shoemaker.
But the reality is that a company can go broke, can go bankrupt, I'm not saying it will, but can, and therefore no money can be gained or got by the debtor. Is that so? Is it?
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
Under
Through the
bankruptcy.
CEO.
Through the Mayor, if that situation occurred, a $27 million investment into the Western Foreshore, which they would have already expended, that would be a very attractive offering for another proponent to want to operate out of the Western Foreshore. So we would go through a process. It would be up to council to assign a lease, and I am sure that there would be a offering based on already infrastructure of the $27 million that they are going to invest in the Western Foreshore commercial area.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll now move to the mover to close the item.
Yeah, I do acknowledge the concerns that the other councillors have around the long-term financial plan and some of the costings there, particularly around the rising rates and the call for greater efficiencies at time. And I certainly don't disagree with that premise that we must always look for better ways of doing things. I do appreciate the fact that Councillor Shoemaker tonight's actually found something there regarding to cost for the Western Foreshore that can create an opportunity for us to talk a bit more about what's in that plan, but identifying these efficiencies is the first point of call. And I think that's our role as policy setters. We shouldn't be micromanaging the council, but we definitely need to be setting direction. We shouldn't be micromanaging the city, sorry. We should be setting direction for the city. And it's important to do exactly what Councillor Shoemaker has done tonight. There's a figure. We can play around with that figure. There's other figures in there. I had a chat to Mayor Knight today about my thoughts around the literacy strategy and some of the other strategies moving forward. There's $126,000 there, possibly. There's $200,000 for the website upgrades. We're already compliant with Local Government Act in the website space. Do we necessarily have to be spending that $200,000 this year? But it opens up a conversation. So I appreciate that you've done that, Councillor Shoemaker. And I do think that that's the leadership that our community expects from us as councillors, that when we're going to say we disagree with something or we want to find an efficiency here, it's incumbent on us to actually come up with exactly where we're talking about. I think that's more productive. We don't beat around the bush at that point, and we can then have an honest conversation. I do support the plan. It does give us transparency, as I've said, to have these conversations. The plan is anywhere from perfect. No plan ever is perfect, particularly when we're talking about the amount of money that comes through city coffers every year. I wouldn't expect it to be. One thing I know about this plan, and from the leadership that our city staff show and from us as councillors, is that it's detailed, it's 100% honest, and it also gives us levers we need as councillors to act on the information that's presented to us. The alternative is that we just vote no, and that's no way to move forward. I'd rather engage with it, and I'd rather shape priorities from within. So I really do appreciate the debate tonight, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I'll now put that to the vote. Those that oppose it, Councillor Shoemaker and Councillor Burns. That is carried. Thank you. Now we'll move to the adoption of the annual budget and rates, and because of the disclosures of interest, we will break it up, and the first part you've got before you is Part A. We'll just wait for the... I think Councillor Pond is going to have to leave us. Sorry, Councillor Pond. Due to having an indirect financial interest in this Part A of the resolution. Okay, I'm going to call for a mover and a seconder of Part A. Councillor Rogers and Councillor Cumberworth. Councillor Rogers?
Nothing specifically to comment in relation to Visit Mandurah. We've had many conversations on Visit Mandurah in the past. I'm happy to adopt it for the purposes of it falling into the budget. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Councillor Cumberworth?
Mandurah has traditionally been a tourist town, and we've continued that theme. We've done what we do best, and we've invested into tourism. Visit Mandurah has done a fantastic job. The Giants Tourism Project turned out to be an absolute winner and a success, with Mandurah being awarded top tourist town. I personally believe that Mandurah could be the top at whichever avenue it chooses. For now, we've chosen tourism and we're doing well at it, and I'm happy to support us continuing to grow in that industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberworth. Is there anyone with a question or wishing to speak against this particular item? No, so we'll just vote on it. Is anyone wishing to vote against this Part A of the resolution? Councillor Burns is voting against it. I declare that is carried. Can we please ask Councillor Pond to come back into the room? And we'll ask that Councillor Smith vacates the room. Okay, so we have Part B before us on the screen, and I'll ask for a mover and a seconder of Part B. Councillor Cumberworth, Councillor Wilkins. Councillor Cumberworth.
I am a strong advocate for trails. We're currently planning on the Yalgarup Trails project. The nearby city of old town of Dwellingup has been awarded top trails town, and I think that the city of Mandurah should be basically investing in linking trails from north to south and encouraging physical activity, bicycle riding, and installing the infrastructure to support that.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberworth. Councillor Wilkins.
This reminds me that I don't spend anywhere near enough time in Falcon, and I should, because this path looks amazing, and I look forward to riding my skateboard along it once it's done.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Does anyone have any questions in relation? Councillor Jackson?
Would you be able to give me a call when you do that? I'll get there with a camera. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Okay, I'll put that to the vote. Anyone wishing to vote against this particular item? Councillor Burns. That is carried. Thank you. Can we please get Councillor Smith back in the room, and Councillor Rogers is going to depart the room. Thank you. Okay, so we're now looking at Part C. Can I please ask for a mover and a seconder of Part C? Councillor Shoemaker and Councillor Wright. Councillor Shoemaker.
Happy to move this part. Anything to do with black spot and car accidents, we need to be onto and we need to fix.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Wright.
Through the Mayor, nothing further to add.
Thank you. Has anyone got a question in relation to this? Does anyone wish to vote against this item? Councillor Burns is voting against it. That is carried. Thank you. Can we please ask Councillor Rogers to come back into the room? Okay, so we are now dealing with Part D of the recommendation to adopt the annual budget, and just noting that point 6, there is an officer amendment that has been shared with councillors. Okay, so I'm going to call for a mover, Councillor Rogers, and a seconder, Councillor Cumberworth. Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be moving the quite substantial recommendation that's contained both in our agendas and on screen. Just noting that the primary thrust of this is to adopt the budget, which falls out of the first year of our 10-year
long-term financial plan, and the subsequent rate in the dollar that allows the implementation of that budget to ensure we have enough revenue to actually deliver on that budget. Our budget is an important tool in the implementation of our strategy. And I just want to make quick reference to that as a part of some context setting. The 4 key goals that we have under our current community strategic plan are environment, economic, community, and leadership. Those are the key pillars under our strategic plan. The strategic plan the community has asked us to endorse, and all underlying strategies and business units are aligned to these key pillars. And I reminded myself, whilst we're in the business of reading out sections of the Act, that the general function of the local government must be performed having regard to the following: the need to promote the economic, social and environmental sustainability of the district. If environment, economy and community and leadership doesn't align with economic, social and environment, I don't know what does. So our strategic plan that is required to be delivered in this as a part of this budget is quite closely aligned. It also makes reference that we need to mitigate for risks associated to climate change, consider the potential long-term consequences and impacts on future generations, which I think is what Councillor Smith was referencing in relation to intergenerational equity. And then importantly, there's 2 other parts. There's a liberal approach that's required to be taken to the construction of the scope of the general functions of the local government, but also that the general functions are all those things that arise out of other acts. And we have a number of acts that we are governed by. We have a substantial amount of acts that we're required to comply with, and that drives most of our business. So the budget and the rates are inextricably linked, and the rates underpin that budget and the long-term financial plan. Just wanted to make mention of that because I thought it was a good point by Councillor Wright in another debate. We are not immune to inflationary pressures. Before doing anything more or anything less, our employment costs have risen, our materials and contracts have risen, and our utilities and insurances have substantially risen, and we have to deal with that. We have a formula for working out what the combination of, we used to use CPI, but now we've got a bit more mature in what we're using to work out what that means in terms of an increase to doing just business as usual. But on top of that, we have the 0.68%, and that is because we have historically underrated our residents. Residents at the moment have enjoyed benefit of facilities and services at the expense of future generations because, in a way, they haven't paid their way and we've underrated residents. I also just want to talk specifically as well, we can't forget it, that there is the SAR part of this that we're going to adopt, which is a specified area rate for particular areas where a greater amenity is enjoyed. And I just wanted to make mention of the work that's primarily ongoing from the Director of Built and Natural Environment in relation to the review of all of those SARs, which is quite a substantial parcel of work, which will take a number of years to complete to ensure that the correct and accurate collection of SARs is occurring for delivering actual benefit in those areas. I just wanted to say as well that I'm supportive of what's been proposed here. I think it's sensible, prudent financial management. In relation to the consultation that exists within the report, I don't think this is a debate in relation to volume of consultation. I don't think that way, but if people are inclined to think that the more numbers involved in it make it right, this report received 99 submissions. The Mandurah Matters Checked In received 2,400 submissions that told us to do the things that delivered our strategic plan, which informed our long-term financial plan, which informed this budget. So if you're swayed by the view that the number of people putting in a submission matters, then I would probably be going with the 2,400. I just want to say also as well, and I sort of reflect on the comments of Councillor Wright in relation to funneling constructive comments about identifying savings in the long-term financial plan. I think that's absolutely prudent advice. I think that's something that we do. It's not something that's been presented as a part of our extensive
long-term financial workshopping that's occurred, which Councillor Smith alluded was a very long process. There were no proposals to cut from that long-term financial plan. And the prudent place to have that conversation is the financial implications workshop. Just a final point then.
Point of order, please, Chair. 8.6, limitation of duration of speeches. I'm sure the elected member has exceeded his 5 minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. I'm happy to extend that time.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a final 2 points. Thank you, Mayor. The cost of living pressures, the average residential rate, it's an increase of $1.34 per average residential rate per week. If members of the 0% Club are interested in proposing the 0% and that's adopted without guidance on what projects will be cut, again, I made this point at the last council meeting, we have to assume that everything's on the table. That includes programs that go to our most disadvantaged, our young people and our families. The Mark runs programs that are subsidised. The Billy Dower runs free programs for young people. There are free community events which we run, the largest in Western Australia, being Crabfest. Parks and sporting facilities are often subsidised or free access. Libraries and events and services are subsidised and free. And things like the gardens, the Port Mandurah Residence Garden Station, everybody raves about those. Those are free, right? I'm worried that if we end up going for a race to the bottom with a 0% rate increase, these are some of the first programs to go, which means that people would be at more cost trying to access those programs through a private provider or the free market. They rely on those free programs. And I just think we could end up with some unintended consequences if we're serious about the cost of living pressures. And just as a final point, Mayor, I'm glad that Councillor Pond mentioned it during the question time in relation to the hardship policy. I think sometimes we forget that. This is a council that balances its financial management responsibilities under the Act with a compassionate approach. And we have a very, very detailed community hardship process for those who are struggling. And it has many options. And once again, reiterating the points of both the staff and that I think that Councillor Pond was trying to allude to, if residents are experiencing hardship, make contact with the city. That is the right thing to do, and I'm sure the city will be more than willing to help. So with that, I'm happy to close the moving.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Councillor Cumberworth.
The right decision is not always an easy decision. I think everyone in the community is aware of cost of living pressures at the moment. It seems to be coming from all angles, in all avenues. Prices are going up. It would be irresponsible of us as a local government to not provide a fiscally responsible rate increase to keep up with inflation. And in saying that, I commend the administration. I've personally challenged the administration on their spending, and they have responded effectively. I've seen multiple examples of the administration working hard to cut costs, reduce costs, be more efficient. In the last 2 years, I've seen many examples there using better software. I absolutely commend the administration. It's definitely heading in the right direction, and absolutely happy to support giving the City of Mandurah administration the main tool that they require to perform their duty in running one of Western Australia's biggest regional local governments, and that is the money to do their job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cumberworth.
Question?
Councillor Burns, question?
If we go back to Councillor Rogers' opening the debate, he mentioned, he quoted the Act and the areas at which local government is described or prescribed or obliged to work in under those Act, in that Act. is it prescribed how much we have to spend in each of those, or how is that measured? Or is that to the discretion of the council? So while the Act prescribes areas which we may spend, does it prescribe how much?
Thank you, Councillor Burns. To the CEO.
In relation to the question, my response there is many acts and regulations that we have to abide by. So that is a very general question. We have a list of every act and regulation we are bound by, and the relevant sections that we must carry out. But in a general sense, sometimes it does prescribe a service, but the level of service is often up to the council to determine. But that is a very generic response to yours. Obviously, understanding there are a large amount of acts that we have to abide by.
Thank you, CEO.
So in relation to the ones as listed in that speech, such as climate change, it doesn't prescribe climate mitigation, or doesn't actually prescribe how much we spend there.
Thank you, Councillor Burns.
Through the Mayor, council have to consider, and again, that is up to council to determine.
Thank you. Councillor, to speak against? Okay. Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. I was hoping to...
Spoken to it. Sorry, Councillor Burns.
No trouble. Thanks, Chair. Look, I was hoping to have the opportunity to outlay my concerns during the debate on the long-term financial plan. Thankfully, I was able to convey many of those last month at our special council meeting. I won't rehash them all now, but I do want to clearly explain why I cannot support this budget or the 4% rate rise it includes. The increase isn't abstract. It's not just a number on a spreadsheet. It's another cost for households already under financial strain. Mandurah has a disproportionately elderly and lower income population. For many, budgets are already stretching to breaking point, and every dollar counts. We're told it's just a few dollars a week, but that same logic applies in reverse. A rate freeze would likely result in negligible impact to most services, while sending a strong signal that council is serious about tightening its belt, just as the community has been forced to do so. Last month, I heard it suggested that a 0% rate rise would leave a $4.5 million black hole. That figure assumes no meaningful changes to service levels, no genuine attempt at reform, and no real commitment to finding efficiencies. It assumes no challenge to legacy spending and no innovation in delivery. In effect, it assumes nothing can or should change. That's not prudent management, that's complacency. Some argue we need to adopt this budget because it reflects what we've already decided to spend. But if the community can't afford what we've decided, then what we've decided needs to be revisited. I've spent over 30 years in engineering and project management across private sector and major infrastructure, and I've seen firsthand how large organisations can identify savings and drive efficiencies when they have the will to do so. Last month, it was suggested that the rate rise is a vote of confidence in the city's executive team. But with respect, I reject that framing. Ratepayers aren't being taxed to support management. They're taxed to receive core services efficiently and affordably. It's not disrespectful to demand better value for money, nor is it improper to question whether all existing programs are necessary or effective. We've also heard that we must raise rates to allow the city to dream big. That too I respectfully reject. It's not the role of government to dream big. It is the role of free individuals, of entrepreneurs, families and the communities. The best thing we can do as a council is to remove unnecessary burdens so our residents can dream big for themselves, unencumbered by over-taxation, over-regulation and excessive bureaucracy. I've lived in Mandurah for over 40 years and importantly, I still do. I know this community, I speak to the people every day who are just holding on. I am absolutely confident that meaningful savings are achievable and council can deliver a rate freeze without hurting core services. If it has the conviction to try. This budget locks in spending without questioning its value and raises rates without demanding offsetting reform. That's not the kind of governance I can support, and therefore foreshadow a motion for a 0% increase should this motion before us fail. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Is there...
Yeah, just a few points to close the debate, Mayor. Thank you.
Oh, beg your pardon, sorry, I didn't have the microphone on. So it's over to you, Councillor Rogers, to close, and also just reminding councillors that should the item fail, Councillor Burns has foreshadowed a 0%.
Thank you. Just a few points, both reiterating and responding to what occurred there. The cost of living, again, I reiterate the point that there are many things that we provide to the community for free, and hamstringing the delivery of strategy through a 0% rate increase can have impacts on how we are already supporting people who are feeling the pinch. So we should be aware of unintended consequences. There was mention of a rate freeze, but I've never ever heard anybody state how long that will go for in a serious way. If we're considering a rate freeze, I'd like to see a plan around that, how it happens, and I'd like to see that built into the long-term financial plan so we understand what that means. That hasn't been proposed. There was comments around no challenging of legacy spending. That also hasn't been done by councillors that are asserting that point during our financial implication workshops. The efficiency comments that were made, the council runs an efficiency program, both of long-term permanent savings and one-off savings in relation to the budget. If we want to make those more, we can make those more. And the best way to do that is address that through the financial implications workshop. I'm not sure what burdens we're imposing on community. Most of what we're required to do, again, is driven by substantial state government legislation. It's not us, we're not a legislative body. Regulations and legislative burdens of the state government, with all due respect, not us. And comments around people who are doing it tough, I agree. And that's why, as has been mentioned multiple times, we deal through that, not through the general rates, which is how we deliver for everybody. But for people who are suffering in specific instances, making access of that hardship policy, once again, I reiterate it, it's how we balance good financial management with a compassionate council. And so if people are experiencing that, they should be encouraged to access that policy.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Now I'll put that to the vote. Those that are voting against it, Councillor Burns, Councillor Zolani and Councillor Shoemaker, that is carried. Thank you. Now, I won't forget this time, but we'll now move to the next item. But before we do so, I'd like to invite the financial manager to do the financial presentation.
Thank you. Through the Chair, the financial report for May 2025, one more month to go until year end. A quick look at our operating graphs. Operating income is just sitting below, slightly below budget, not very far below. Operating expenditure is below budget, where we would like to see them at this point of the year. Moving on to the capital graphs, non-operating income is a bit below budget. That is due to the milestones that need to be achieved before we can receive that income from our capital projects. A quick look at interest trends. Interest that was saved through our loan offset facility year to date so far totals $201,000. Term deposit interest rates are attracting around 4.6%, which is quite a decrease from previous months due to the recent rate decreases. A look at our rates receivable. Received to date, March 2025, we have collected 94.9% of our rates versus May last year, which was at 97.6%. So we are continually monitoring that. Also, rate collections for properties with a debt of over $10,000, we have seen a decrease towards where we were last year, so that's good to note. 3,000 to 10,000, we have also seen a decrease in that as well, although they are still above where we were last year. I will take the budget variations on the slide as read in the report. And the May 2025 tenders are on the screen. I'll take them as read as well, although I'll note that the city's procurement team observed the tender evaluation process and is satisfied that the probity and procedural aspects relating to the evaluation were compliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Rogers?
It's actually in relation to the report itself, if that's okay.
Shall we wait until we get into the report?
Yep, happy to wait then.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so we have a resolution, the council recommendation in front of us on the screen. It's the monthly financial report for May. Can I please ask for a mover and a seconder of that item? Councillor Rogers and Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Mayor. Have the recommendation in relation to the May financial reports, another good set of reports, and don't intend to speak too much to the commentary in relation to that. I appreciate the presentation from the Manager of Finance as we get closer to the end of the financial year. The one question that I did have was just in relation to legal action against properties. I suppose question of clarity. My assumption is that would be a sort of a key indicator of whether households are in financial strain and unable to pay rates, and then we have to commence legal action against those properties for outstanding rates. It just seems we've heard some commentary about inability to pay, but we have commenced zero proceedings. I'm just wondering if we can get some commentary around why we think that is the case, because normally we've seen them in previous years, but yet we've got, I suppose, a big zero in relation to legal actions that has been commenced.
Thank you. Through to the Manager.
Thank you. Through the Chair, yes, we haven't launched any legal action this year. There's a couple of reasons for that. The City, when we commence our debt recovery process, we take every avenue before we get to that route. So that's phone calls, texts, letters, following up every avenue we can before we get to the legal route. So we have gone through that process this year, and we will, given that we're seeing an increase in the over 10,000 and 3 to 10, we would expect that legal action to commence after the next due date falls, which is the 9th of September. So we do expect to see a bit of an increase next year as we cope with what has happened this year.
Thank you. Now we'll move to Councillor Wilkins to second.
Thank you, Mayor. Not much more to add. Good to see a crowd for your address in the chamber. There must be a council election around the corner, so it's good to see they've made their way out in the cold. As a proud East Ward councillor, it's great to see a bunch of works being done in areas like Greenfields and Coodnup, and happy to support this report. I do have a question also, though, if that's okay.
Councillor Wilkins, question.
Thank you, Chair. Just in regard to the Roy Tuckey Reserve BMX track, it's at design. Have we got an indication when construction might be?
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Through to the Director of Built and Natural Environment.
Through the Chair, if I could take that question on notice. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions in relation to the report? Is there anyone wishing to speak against the report? I'll put that report to the vote. Those against? There isn't anyone. That is carried. Thank you. We'll now move to the CEO just for a correction in some figures that she quoted earlier. So through to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Shoemaker, when I said $27 million of investments, $25 million of investment, I just want to correct that factual error. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. So we'll now move to item 20, which is motions of which notice has been given. There is none. And 21, notice of motions for consideration at the following meeting. Does anyone have any notice of motions that they wish to give notice of? No. Late and urgent business, there is none. Confidential items, there is No confidential items. We will close the meeting. I'd like to thank everyone who's joined us in the gallery tonight. That now concludes the meeting. Thank you for your support and your participation, and I will now close the meeting at 4 minutes past 8. Thank you very much. And can I just check that the